So you've been wondering, I've been wondering, we've all been wondering what the Alpha Pro's range actually is, and today we're gonna find out. Well, I think I pushed it. Not exactly sure where I am. And so why not just get straight to the point? We have a bike, we have a full battery. Let's just keep going till we can't anymore. Well, that was the thinking at first, but this is me after the fact, and I know the range now, which I could tell you right here, right now, but where's the story? Where's the engagement? Stick with me. This has been requested by quite a few of you, and for good reason. Range is always an it depends kind of answer because there's so many different things that can affect the range, and manufacturer estimates are usually overly optimistic. Or, as of late, just plain vague, like I'm sure you would have done. I went to the website to check the specs of the Alpha Pro so I could at least get an idea of what I can expect. And their range? Oh, you know, anywhere between 25 and 50 plus miles. Excuse me? Talk about range on range. Electro & Co is guilty of this too. With the new RTR lineup now, all of the bikes have a mileage range where the high end is basically double that of the low end. There's also usual notes about how everything depends on rider weight and performance and blah blah blah, but at that point anything is possible, really. Hell, I could just say that the range of this bike is 200 miles, but just footnote that it's a 200-mile downhill and you're mostly coasting. All this to say, we need to ride it to find out. Status update. So I've gone a good chunk of the theoretical mileage, at least on the low end. I've gone 8.5 miles exactly at this point, and the battery is a little deceiving because it's still showing that I have a full bar, which I don't think is the case. I've seen a lot of questions about battery levels and percentages related to this, and not just for the Alpha Pro, but for any electric bike. Because if you ride one of these things, you can see that the battery levels change pretty frequently and drastically. You could see scenarios where you're at 80% or basically 100%, and then it just drops down to 35. Or you've been riding forever on 50%, it doesn't seem to move, and then it's less than 10. This is because battery level percentage is based on what you're doing at that moment. So if you're really hard on the bike or wide open throttle, you're gonna see it drop down really quickly. It's because it's measuring the load at that particular point, and at that particular point, the load is heavy. Then you'll let off and coast or go easy on it, and you'll see it level off or even increase. And it's not like it's actually increasing. You're not gaining battery power, but it's accounting for the drop in the load and reassessing. So here's another example about the difference, the swings that you can see in the battery load. So as you can see, there's a really steep hill up here, and if I gun it, up it, it's taking a lot of battery power. It's actually going all the way down. Looks like I got half power now. And now even coasting down that same hill, the battery percentage has increased, so now I'm just losing 1 bar instead of 2. And again, back up another steep hill, battery power goes back down again. It's all about the load. Speaking of load, remember that the Alpha Pro's stock battery is 72 volts and 25 amp hours. That had nothing to do with load, but I needed a transition. This is the same capacity as what is now deemed the RTR Sport, which also claims a wildly vague range of 30 to 50 miles. But I think there will be a difference in the performance of these two batteries because they're built different. They have the same amp hours, but the difference in cells could impact their performance. Like if the Alpha Pro's battery here is rated for 100 amps and we're running 90 amps through the controller, then it might be more of a strain on the battery pack itself rather than if it was a battery pack that had, say, 200 amps. Here's an example of an upgraded 72 volt battery for an IN10, an EM5, or an Alpha Pro for no particular reason. I don't know why I'd have such a thing, that lists several different cell types and a wide range of continuous amperage going from 125 amps all the way up to 250 amps for the same sized pack. And remember that the Alpha Pro is more powerful watt for watt than the RTR Sport. So if they have the same capacity, then the Alpha Pro here is probably going to drink more. You know what? I didn't really get much of a top speed run the last time I tried this thing out, so now that we got a flat straight, let's see what it is on the street. I saw in the 50s there. So there is a max speed here that you can toggle between, and this one picked up as 54.5 miles an hour. But I know that's probably off, so let's actually see. 48 is what I got on the GPS. So a little bit of a difference right there, and I think we're also going to have to use that as an adjustment for our trip meter. This says we have 11.9 miles right now, but because this is overestimating, it's probably that we've gone a little bit less than that. Another note to this top speed is that this bike is still on the stock tune. With adjustments to that, we can probably increase that, and I think we will be doing that later on. Earlier in this video, I was dogging Ionic Moto and Electro & Co for having such a wide range in their mileage estimates, but as I was racking up the miles, I could see those different factors playing in and how each one of those could drastically impact how far I can ultimately go. Like how fast you're riding, how aggressive you're riding, or even elevation changes, whether or not you're on a flat surface or going straight up and down on steep hills. Even things you can't change, like your height and your weight, or at least things you can't change on a dime. I mean, even the battery level on this bike is as vague as the range that they provide, so who knows how many miles I can go.
All right, this party might be coming to an end because the battery bar is hovering between 1 and 2 bars, depending on how much throttle I have. I'm at 18.6 miles according to this trip. So we're getting close to the lower end of that range, but we'll ultimately see how far this can actually go and then adjust it, of course, because we know this is overestimating. So really, I'm probably at like 17 miles, give or take. Uh-oh, I just went up a hill and it had a significant power loss, and this was actually flashing from 1 bar to 0. So time to make myself a little closer to home in case I need to walk this thing back. Well, we just crossed over 20 on the trip, but I'm full throttle. And it says I'm only going 24 miles an hour. I think she did. All right, we almost had to get to the point where we were walking it back into the garage, but we made it. Trip says 21.1 miles. So we'll adjust that and see exactly what our mileage has been with a average ride.
So with a normal average type ride, I was 3.9 miles under the low end of their estimate. Actually less than that, because we need to account for the speed difference in the bike, and in doing so, that drops that number down to 18.8 miles. Might not sound that great, but again, it goes to the true core of range tests by saying it depends. Like, I'm bigger than the intended rider. I'm 6 foot 160, not terribly heavy, but not exactly aerodynamic either. And I was riding this thing like I wasn't on a range test run. During that time, I did several top speed runs where I was wide open throttle, which probably drained the battery faster. And I live in a particularly hilly area. Even though I was sticking close to home, I was still seeing elevation changes of a couple hundred feet, both up and down. I mean, I also had breakfast that morning, so I probably added on a few ounces as well. So to prove my point, the other day I skipped my breakfast and went out again. And I really don't want to do what I have to do. So now the goal is maximum distance, and because of that, I need to make a few sacrifices. 2 of those main sacrifices being acceleration and top speed. So I'm basically limiting myself to level 1 on the dash here, which reduces my acceleration from a stop and it reduces my top speed significantly. These both will help lessen the load on the battery and hopefully also not decrease my battery percentage as quickly. I'm also going to limit elevation, or at least try to. I can't really get away from that in the area that I live. There's no such thing as a flat road, but I'm going to try to keep it as flat as possible, again, to lessen the strain on the battery when going up a steep incline that takes a lot of extra power, and that affects the battery. All I know is that so far I've only gone 1.5 miles, and if this is going to be 20 plus miles, it's going to be pretty boring. All right, status report. It has been a grueling 10.5 miles according to the trip meter here, and not surprisingly, 0 change to the battery percentage. Nothing too eventful, but then again, it's because I'm going at, well, a leisurely pace, let's say. This also shows an average speed over a given time, and this is showing my average speed is 19.5 miles an hour, which I know is underestimating, so really I'm only going like 17 or 18. I'm not even going the speed limit. Needless to say, this is gonna take a while. I should have brought a book or something. Well, I spaced out there for a bit, but I woke up again and noticed that I've actually exceeded the mileage that I did on the first run. We're at 21.3. But the crazy part of that is, according to this, I'm still at 80%. And I'm kind of inclined to believe that because I'm not really putting that much load on this at all. So there's no fluctuation that I was seeing previously, where you would whack the throttle, it would drop down a bunch, and then you would coast or let off, and then it would come back up again. It's been consistent. Am I really gonna have to be doing this for another 30 plus miles? Turns out, yes, I kinda did. After a grueling 25 miles of going as slow as possible on this bike and seeing only 50% battery remaining, I knew I had to take a break, so I pulled this back into the garage and turned it off.
That way I know I could be able to add that to this trip. Then once I took a nice break, regained the feeling in my ass, I got back on the bike, and now it's been another 11.5 miles. However, thankfully in the second part of the run, the battery percentage hasn't been as steady. I'm down to 1 bar, and just now it's starting to go between 1 and flashing 1 and 0, so I think I'm on the end of it. I mean, I'd like to say that the bike feels slower, but then again, it's been slow this entire time. So at this point, I don't know if it's just because the bike is running slower or it's actually got low voltage. Although I'm starting to think it's low voltage now because I'm full throttle, I just realized, and I'm only going 17 miles an hour and dropping, and I'm pretty far from home. I pushed it. I definitely got the full range out of this thing, and not exactly sure where I am. At least I'll get my steps in.
Like I brought up earlier, I was so skeptical to see mileage with a whopping 25 miles difference, but now I get it. Turns out that changing your riding style by minimizing your top speed and how quickly you get to that speed drastically increases how far you can go. When I applied these changes and accounting for the speedo differences, I went 34.9 miles, plus the extra mile I walked home. And if I was significantly shorter or lighter, I could see this bike going 50 miles. I guess the mileage is just a state of mind. What is it? It's whatever you want it to be. But really, it's like 19 miles.
See what is range, with which how much it can change. 20, 50, it's all worth exploring. Actually don't, because maxing is boring. Level 1 is such a snooze fest. Da-da-da.